Hi guys, I'm Zarlush. I'm one of the ClassRx tutors. I'm currently doing my master's and a joint legal professional qualification at BPP Law School in order to pursue a legal career. And previously I graduated from the LSE where I received a first in LLB Bachelor of Laws. I am teaching law, economics, maths and history at undergrad, well, lower undergrad levels, but the rest at A-level and GCSE. Oh, and I also wanted to mention that I am teaching university applications, including personal statements and the LNAT test specifically for law. In the next few minutes or so, I'm going to take you guys through a crash course of how to answer an A-star economics question. And from the exam paper where you can see I've underlined key elements, and then here's the actual question, the 25 marker question, where I've done the same approach, and I would encourage all econ students to use this approach. So first, this emphasis on evaluation. Second, emphasizing achieving and giving a rise to a potential evaluation point, which is a bit nuanced, of this idea of achieving a surplus or simply aiming for a surplus and whether that's enough, which is important to bring into the conclusion. This obviously the main emphasis of the question, budget surplus, which is going to be the bulk of your analysis on both sides of the case, and obviously it being a desirable objective or not. And because of the 25 marker, we always want graphs, diagrams, and obviously a lot of examples. So first is the case for a budget surplus on the left, as you can follow this diagram. So quickly, the first argument here is this idea of crowding out, and the structure would be introduction, talking a bit about the fiscal policy, explanation of what a surplus is, here being when government spending is less than taxable income in a given year. Going through this argument of crowding out of private consumption and investment, you have your chain of analysis of what it is and how it's normatively a good thing. So that includes points that I've made, such as working through the mechanics of it. So the fact that budget deficit adds to national debt. Why? Because of government spending, which needs to be financed by selling debt, resulting in an upward pressure on the yield of bonds and interest rates, illustrated by this diagram. As you can see, the shift of the demand curve, demand line, and the consequential rise in the interest rate from R1 to R2. With these two arrows, this would be great for analysis. And then importantly, explaining the implications of this. So it has knock-on effect in commercial interest rates, increasing the cost of borrowing for private sector companies, and eventually higher taxes. So you're also addressing this part of the equation or formula for what a budget surplus is. And, ultimately leaving output left unchanged at higher prices. So argument one. Then you address the case against a budget surplus. So the way that this could go is as follows. So first, you address the crowding out argument that you just made in argument one, and you try to limit it or undermine it or point to its weaknesses. And here there are two clear weaknesses. There's probably more if you can think of any. But here are two strong ones. First is that it assumes a closed economy, right? So that in an open economy, it's not the case that only domestic companies need to buy government bonds or government loans. There's a lot of external investors and external sources of finance. For example, China, Germany, other corporations in other countries. So that's the first point. And the second point develops into argument number two against a budget surplus being desirable, and this is the multiplier effect caused by government spending. So using the same structure as in argument one, you'd go through the introduction and explanation, you'd go through the chain of analysis, you'd use a diagram and make reference to the diagram and explain it during your analysis. And here you can see the increase in aggregate demand, the shift in output from Y1 to Y2, quite a simple diagram compared to the crowding out diagram. And here are the two evaluation points. So again, you're always looking to limit, nuance, counter the points or the arguments that you just raised in order to give an overall nuanced and sophisticated answer, which is what you should be aiming to do consistently throughout because of the word evaluate. And here the two evaluation points would be this idea that it requires there to be a circular flow of income, which is undermined obviously if consumers can invest abroad, or if they can, for sending money to other countries by way of imports. And again, this idea of propensities of consumers to save and import further. So if people are saving rather than spending, this undermines the whole multiplier effect. So now onto the third argument, which would be supply side policies. Now, you may be thinking, okay, why do we need to talk about supply side policies? But if you're attentive, you may have picked up that they reference supply side policies or the supply side of the economy in this extract. And so it would be really good to engage with that, pick it up and discuss it, and you're firing away the marks here. So following the same structure, you have the introduction and explanation, the chain of analysis, this idea that it's focusing on structural performance, labor investment. You can give examples such as AI, STEM, education, government-based measures such as the HS2 commitment by the recent Prime Minister Johnson's government. China zoning laws as the efforts to promote entrepreneurs. If you want to use international examples, which of course, because it's a macro paper, you should definitely be doing. The 2015 climate change order, which is quite interesting to argue that that's for supply side policies. And again, key here, as you could probably already tell, is a diagram here showing the key thing is a change in the LRAS line or curve. It can also be demonstrated as a curve where the cost and dynamic efficiency is increasing. And then ultimately, your last argument actually is your conclusion, and you should save a strong argument for your conclusion. Here, it's this idea of the context of the economy, but making it specifically applicable and strong is by relating it to the extract again. So mention of 2016 and, making that connection, talking about it being a post-Brexit referendum, economic climate, not suited for contractionary fiscal policies such as a budget surplus, therefore justifying Hammond's move. Equally, you can make the link to 2020's economic climate due to shocks like, as we are all aware of, the COVID-19 pandemic. So again, this is another instance where running a budget surplus shouldn't be the most desirable policy. And then arguably, this is the most philosophical ending to this argument or to your conclusion of your essay, which is really gearing on to university level. But this idea that, budget deficits maybe are more normalized and budget surpluses less desirable than before. And you can use examples of the US and China statistics. If you're aware of them and if you read the news, then this should really be, almost natural for you to come up with these examples to flower your work. And again, going back to this evaluation point in the beginning, a concluding line that maybe it's too much to achieve a budget surplus, but it will be sufficient to simply aim and have that sort of fiscal discipline. You're ending easily a 22 out of 25 in a minimum type of answer. And that is essentially the way to get an A star in an A-level economics question. So thank you for watching. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me through hello@classrx.com with my name Zarlush in the subject. And apart from that, bye for now.